What's going on, everyone? It's Smudger here, and today we're back with another Stat Sunday in anticipation for League Play dropping tomorrow, as it is on the 8th of February. We're going to take a deep dive into the meta guns that you're going to be seeing. Obviously there's some clarification that needs to come through with League Play about whether or not we're going to have to use preset classes. So for this video I've essentially used the standard pro class setup you'll see most pros running these guns, including one gun which is currently GA'd, but I'm pretty sure I saw a leak of it somewhere that it will be allowed in League Play, so I've included that here, but I won't be focusing on it as much as I potentially would if we knew confirmed it was going to be in League Play. So let's jump into it. Let's find out what the meta is and what gun you should be rocking when League Play drops. Okay, so first up we're going to compare the three assault rifles in the game, the Krig and the XM4, which are widely used, they are the only assault rifles used, and the AK47, which is GA'd in the competitive scene. And what a GA is essentially a gentleman's agreement where they agree not to use it because they think it's too OP or it's too broken. And so what we have here is we have all three set up using Gunfighter. We also have a second tab, which I'll show you in a minute, where you don't have Gunfighter if you were running Perk Greed instead. So let's look at the Gunfighter one really quickly and we'll kind of break down what gun is going to be the meta. And so of course it'll be no surprise that first up here you got XM4 orange, Krig pink, AK47 in blue. And you'll see that AK dominates in terms of time to kill. You know, all the way up to 38 meters. You're looking at under 0.7 of a second to kill people, and these were shots to the chest. It's even quicker with shots to the head, obviously, and that gap gets even bigger. But say, for argument's sake, that most of your shots hit them in the chest. The AK-47 seems to be the pretty clear choice, except it has this quite big step up at 38 meters. You could argue that in some of the maps that's not going to be too much of an issue depending on what lines of sight you're going to want to hold as an AR, but I'd argue that you're going to want to be running one of these other two weapons just because they have that time to kill stays consistent for longer. Are you going to be engaging gunfights past 50 meters regularly? Probably not. And now the XM4 actually has a quicker time to kill with the attachments. I've got them stacked pretty much identically. I don't see why people would use the Krig, especially with the potential stealth buffs it seems to have got. I know they haven't been tested fully yet, but the XM4 seems to be a really dominant gun for flexes and just for a second and third AR on some maps. And this is where it's obviously stacked up to the 9s. And if you look at here, the reason that it is so powerful is this fire rate is massively important, even though the bullet velocity isn't as quick as the Krig. And so what it is essentially is your bullets are just getting there. Like, there are more of them getting there. That's really all it comes down to. You know, there's no difference in ADS movement speed, sprint to fire time, ADS time. Like, there's no difference there. Even the vertical recoil and horizontal bounce are pretty much mitigated the same, although the Krig does shoot like a laser, that's just the way the gun is built. Krig reloads faster, but I'd still, for the majority of situations, the XM4 is going to do really well. The only time where maybe you want to be running it is if, say, a map like Checkmate, those longer lines of sight, a Krig's going to do really well on there, of course it is, and a Krig still shreds, don't get me wrong, like, a Krig's still a really good gun. If we actually flip over to, if you were running Perk Overkill, Perk Greed, again, got everything set up, 5 attachments, try to keep it fairly consistent. Obviously people might switch up some of these attachments depending on personal preference. Again, you can see that AK is far better, and it follows the same pattern. You've got the XM4 and then the Krig. The justification for using the Krig once again is that it stays at that lower level and time to kill far quicker than the XM4 once it has that jump, and same with the AK. If the AK doesn't stay GA'd and banned in League Play, it'll be interesting to see how many people do rock it. I know the pros have actually come to an agreement within Treyarch and Activision and about how the classes should be set up, and if we do have to play with those preset classes, I'd expect to not see the AK. I don't think the AK should be included. You're gonna see a lot of abuse with the AK. However, I also don't want to see preset classes. I think one of the joys of League play is sometimes running a wacky class and seeing what you can pull off with it. And if we look at damage per second, let's remove the AK for argument's sake, you'll see the Krig actually does way more. And once again, that is because of the XM4 has that fire rate, even though the Krig's got the bullet velocity, that fire rate outstrips it. And the Krig just doesn't feel like it hits it hard at those medium ranges. It feels like it can get outgunned quite quickly. And so that led me to think, essentially, what if you took the XM4 and the AK74U, and this was for a very specific reason that I originally, really delved into this. That was because RCT's a FaZe player, an Atlanta FaZe player, tweeted out a quote tweet in response to something where he said, look at the weapons, I'll put it on screen for you now, and they're running 4 XM4s. 4 ARs. And I don't know if they were just trying things out. This was in a scrim against London, and I don't know if they were just trying it out, but wow. If the XM4 is really kind of taking off in that aspect, sub players aren't going to be happy. But also, where does that lead to the competitive scene with 4 exact guns and not even, a different differentiation in guns? So I took that, made kind of the standard AK74U class you see a lot of people running. Already take out the Krig in terms of looking at that flex roll. So we take out that, and you see that obviously the AK74U is far more stepped. It drops off at, what's that, like 8, 7.6 and 18 dead on. Those are your big kind of time to kill jumps. So and obviously anywhere between 0 to 8, let's be generous, you're going to want to be using the AK74U, like, clearly. And even you could argue up until kind of 18 meters, it's still very viable. Of course, that's why you see so many people running it. But look at this, like, this entire stretch of distance, so from 18 up to 45, the XM4 far outstrips it. And at 18 meters, like, that's not a massive distance really, and if you can turn your XM4 into a far snappier kind of build, that I don't see any reason why you wouldn't run, maybe a Krig and then 2 XM4s and an AK74U. It's a very strange meta at the time within League play, and I think it's going to be entirely dependent on what Treyarch bring to the table when they release it tomorrow about whether or not these do get ran. And of course, with League play, especially if you're not with a full squad, it's even harder to kind of gauge what gun you should be using because it's dependent on what your teammates are using. I don't know, it's a weird time, because if we actually flick over to the stats, you'll see that bullet velocity, fire rate, all below the XM4. And so you'll see here that, like, bullet velocity, fire rate, all below the XM4, movement speed far quicker. I've actually got more recoil control on this, although that doesn't really say much in terms of gun-to-gun comparison. Sprint to fire time, far quicker of course, ADS time quicker, reload time quicker. Everything points at the AK74U should be better, except when you look at this time to kill chart, and even this damage chart, the XM4 just seems to outstrip it. And I can see more and more why pro players are running, second and third ARs consistently in this game, which is a far cry from Modern Warfare, where of course you only ever saw kind of an M4 and a 4 MP5s because it's 5v5 then, exception of S&D and a couple of different maps, but it was very a sub-dominated competitive league at that time. It'll be interesting to see this shift over, how players adapt, and it'll be interesting to see how this implements itself into League play. So I've given you guys the stats about what I actually think. The answer is I don't know. It depends what they bring to the table in terms of preset classes, in terms of if they're going to carry through any of the GAs, so whether or not you're going to see the AK-47, because obviously that will be a big move, because that's going to outstrip the XM4 in a lot of close quarters engagements. It's a weird time. I think it's the sort of time where you're going to have to wait and see if there are any big changes stat-wise. Obviously True Game Data, JGod, Exclusive Ace, all those people keep up to date with it. I'll try and bring you the news when I can. It's a weird situation. I don't really know how that's going to play out, but we'll wait and see. We've only got like a few hours left really, so we will wait and see about what meta rises in terms of League play. Either way, I'm super excited for League play. Not a fan of the format that they're bringing from Black Ops 4 back, but it is what it is. At least we will have some League play. It's better than nothing, even if it has taken until February to get here. Thanks, Treyarch. All jokes aside, I hope it's good. For the love of God, I hope it's good. I hope there's not preset classes, but I hope that they do remove certain guns. That's all I have to say on it. I hope you all have a good day. If you want to see more of this type of content, let me know down in the comments. Give it a like, subscribe if you want to find your way back, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.